Hello, my name is Max and I welcome you to a video in which I want to show you how to write a script in Unity that allows the selection and control of buttons by keyboard or gamepads. I will show you this in the game Cyclopvania, a game I am coding on, which is available on itch.io. I will put the link in the description. Feel free to check it out if you want to support me. The script we will write here is also available on GitHub. You can find the link in the description as well. But now we can start. So we have a canvas for our user interface on which buttons can be found. The first step is to mark all our buttons with an appropriate tag. In this case, we call this tag button. So we create a new tag and then we add the new tag to the buttons. We do this for a simple reason, because in Unity there is a simple command that finds all game objects with a specific tag that are active in a scene. This command takes some of the work out of it, so we'll use that. Once we have the tags distributed, we create a new script. I call this button management and open it. First we add using unityengine.ui. Since we want to access various features of that Unity engine. Now we need some variables. The most important one is an array of game objects where all our buttons will end up. This we can call public game object btn. It is even better if we use this as serialize field. After that, we add two sprites. In one we put the sprite we want to use for the button that is currently selected and another sprite for the unselected buttons, so that it is graphically signaled which button is currently active. Then we store the active button in an integer. This will be the number in the array of buttons with the active button. Two floats for horizontal and vertical, because we want to check later if a button is in which position, so that always the right button is selected. Then we need a bool and a game object that contains the first button. Since we don't need the start class, we can delete it. In the update class now comes the command gameObject.find game objects with tag button. Our array will now be filled with the buttons. After that, we first check if our array with the buttons is empty or not. It can happen that during a game in the running level, all UI elements with buttons are closed. In this case, our array would be empty and our script would end with an error. If your array is empty, we set the number of the selected button to 0, so that the next time you call the user interface, like the menu again, the first button will always be called. The number of the selected button is also changed when we jump from menu to menu. So we check if anything has changed in our array since the last run. We ask if the first button is the same as the first button in our array, and then we set them both equal. If both differ from each other, it is because menus in the interface have changed in the meantime. In this case, we set the number of the selected button to 0 again. After that, we go through all the buttons in a for loop. If the button is active, we access the button script with getComponent and select the button. If you press enter now, the button will be executed automatically. We also change the sprite for the button. We also change the sprite for the unselected buttons. Now we use getComponent rect transform position to get the positions of our buttons and store them in an array of vectors. Later, we want to calculate the differences in the positions of the buttons. For this, we create two arrays of floats with the same length as our button array. We fill these arrays in a for loop. Now comes the actual action. We ask if a button was pressed. If a button has pressed, we use the button pressed bool to make sure that this is only executed once per button press. And now we go through all the buttons looking for the button closest to the array key we pressed. First we exclude the button that is selected anyway. Then all the buttons that lie in the wrong direction. Once this is done, we find the button that is closest to our button horizontally and vertically. This selection mechanism takes place in 4 different directions. If you have written everything like this, it should work for you. We add the sprites in the inspector and we are done. We call our menu and go through the buttons with an arrow key. In another example like this, you can see that it works in all directions. Yes, I hope I could help you with this video. If you have any comments, feel free to write in the comments. See you next time.